Hi, I'm Dave Monty and welcome to my video series, Everything Villages. Today, I'm going to show you my updated cost of living calculator, more like a full-blown budgeting tool at this point. And because it calculates taxes and bond, I'm going to cover some information on the taxes and bonds and how those fluctuate throughout the villages. So stay tuned. As always, a couple of housekeeping items. If you like this video, please hit like. If you like my channel, please subscribe to it. Both of those actions help these videos reach more people, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, this is very important. If you have reached out to me in the past for either my guide or the calculator, basically for any reason, I am going to email this out to you. So if you have already contacted me at one point, you're in my database, and this calculator should be in your inbox in your email. Please check there before you email me. If you're brand new to the channel, if you can't find the calculator, feel free to email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com, and I'll send you out your copy. All right, so we're going to get to the calculator here. Let's talk about it at a high level sense to begin with. One of them is that anything that is in gray can't be changed because those are permanent labels. Calculated values are default values. Some of the feedback that I got from people using this was like, hey, I want to override these values, and I wholeheartedly agree. If anyone tells you, here's what your cost of living is in the villages, they're kind of delusional. They're giving you the lowball, lowest number they possibly can. Also, when everyone's habits are differently, whether your utility bills are going to be completely different, you're going to get a mortgage, not get a mortgage, are you going to have a car, two cars, one car, and a golf cart? So all of those things are different for everybody. So I try to make this as flexible as possible. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step down through the calculator, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I added in, and then we will, then I'm going to switch over. We're going to talk about the bond and taxes and things like that as well. And we're going to do that pretty quickly because the very first input here is the location, where you are within the villages. And I've broken it up into basically the different tax zones within the villages. There are different tax values for Sumter, which is kind of the traditional part of the villages. Sumter Wildwood, which is basically the newer parts of the villages. Marion County. Then you got Lake County up in Orange Blossom. You got Lake County Fruitland Park, which is Pine Ridge, Pine Hill, down just south of 466A. And then where they're building currently, Newell, as an example, is in Lake County in Leesburg. And the value for taxes changes throughout. Now, how do you know? Like if I'm just using this and I'm remote, I don't live here, and I want to look up what the tax value is of a specific home. Well, there's a couple things that you can do. One of them is this. So I don't know if you saw where I just went. So I'm on the bottom here. There's a bunch of tabs. So I just went on the bottom over here to Villages Area Map. And these correspond with the different tax areas. So if you're looking up a property and it happens to be in this area, then you know they're in Sumter. If you're down in Finney, it's going to be Sumter Wildwood. If you're in Newell, it's going to be Leesburg, Lake County. Lake County is right here where Orange Blossom is, and Marion County up here. Okay, Fruitland Park, I'm not sure if I said that, but yeah, Fruitland Park, Lake County. So just based on the address, you can look it up on Google Maps and you can get a sense of where you are in here and which tax location to click on the map beforehand. The next item down is homestead. Is this a homestead at home or not? For the homestead is a reduction in the assessed value of your home by about $50,000, $25,000 for school taxes. You don't have to get into that. The calculator will do it for you. But really, it will reduce your overall bill between maybe $500 to $700 a year, depending on how expensive your home is. To qualify for homestead, you have to live here 6 months in 1 day or consider it your full-time residence. If you're buying something now, you can apply for the homestead for next year's taxes. Right? So just no yes or no. And you can see, if you just, so right now I have no homestead, and you can see that my monthly cost is $1,477. If I say yes, now that goes down about $30-40 a month on this particular home in Sumter County. To point out a couple things here, this is just your monthly expenses. If you want to see just what your annual tax bill is, your annual tax bill is right here. Okay, so is the bond paid? The answer is yes, it's paid, so your bond balance will be zero. Now, I don't show you exactly what the bond is because it is a looked up value, but I'm going to show you on the monthly basis, you have your bond, fire assessment, which is $124 plus CDD taxes. CDD is ongoing maintenance in the villages. That's going to vary between probably 300 way up north to maybe 700, way down south. So that number varies as well. I just took an average because when you divide it out, you're talking about, $10 to $20 at most difference between north and south on a monthly basis. So, this is complicated enough, so I tried to keep it simple in places that I could. So just know that your bond is included in here. Now, bond is also a lookup value. I can't calculate it. A $400,000 home in, just outside Sumter Landing is going to have a bond value of probably maybe $1,200. That same $400,000 home in the new area might have a bond value of $3,200 a year. So those are looked up values. So how do you look up the bond? So I'm going to show you, and currently I default based on averages. So there's a default in here when the bond is not paid. Okay, so there's a default value. I also allow you to override the value. So when you go look up the bond for a specific property, you can just add the annual bond amount in here, and I'll just do it right now. So when I click on that, you'll see that this gets updated. Now, it doesn't get updated by 2000 because this is annual and this number is monthly. Okay, so let's get rid of that for now. So how do I look up the bond value? I have a property address and where do I go? I have a whole video on it, but I tried to make it as easy as possible. If you go back down here to the tabs, looking up bond value. What you need is something called the unit number. So once I have the unit number, I can just click on this link right here. This brings you to districtgov.org, straight to the bond page. As an example, and maybe I'm unit 91. And right there, here's your bond value. So here's your balance. So in 2013, there's a balance of $8,300 in district number 5, which is right around Sumter Landing. And then here's your payment. Okay, there's your payment. All right. So how do I find, minimize this. So now how do I find that unit number? Because that's what you need. Now, if you're looking at a courtyard villa, and I'll just show you, I forgot to do that. If you're looking at a courtyard villa, you don't necessarily need the number. You kind of need the name of the courtyard. Sometimes the unit number is a unit 235. Sometimes that's in the legal description. Sometimes it's not. So hopefully it says it in the description, but you can see that the villa communities have names associated with them. Even unit numbers, like I said, that might not always be listed on the legal description. Okay. All right. You got to look up the unit number by county, unfortunately. So based on which county you're in, again, you can use the map that's on this tab there to figure out which county you're in. And then you can come over to here and say, I'm in Sumter. I'm going to click on there and it's going to bring you right to the Sumter County page. Okay, and I can just hit search by address. So I can just type in an address there and search that number. Once I've done that, this summary page will come up and the unit number is right here. Same thing for Marion County. You click there, you go to click on address, put your information in down here. Okay, you'll come up. There's a couple more steps in Marion County. You'll come up with a parcel number, which is basically the tax ID number for this particular property. You click on that, and then you'll scroll down to the bottom. It says scroll down here, and you'll see the unit number as part of the legal description of that property. Lake County, pretty easy. You're just going to put the address in when you click here, and it'll pop in right, right underneath. It'll be right there. Okay, so that's how you look up the unit number. I kind of hinted at this earlier, where I said, hey, if you know the bond value, I can put it in there. One of the comments that I got from my users was, we want to be able to overwrite these values. So these are default. So I had to figure out a way that I didn't destroy the default values or the calculations that are done in this column for housing costs. So if you want to just say, I know that I'm going to water my lawn because I want the nicest lawn in the villages, I'll just do that. I'm going to say I'm going to spend $100 a month on water, And so it doesn't change the value until I click there. So now I click there, now I'm paying $100 a month and everything else gets updated. So we'll get rid of that just to keep it all in the default values. Again, if I have lawn care, if I want to spend more on lawn care, I can click there and it'll override the value. The next thing is going to be the home value. Obviously, that's pretty obvious. You probably get that from a listing or what you paid for the home. That's what you want to put in there. What type of product? Is it a patio villa? Is it a cottage / ranch, courtyard villa, or designer? These will affect the, you'll see, like if I go from there to patio villa, that number should decrease up top. Right? Oops, I'm pointing. You can't see me pointing. But so if I go from here to patio villa, it reduces by about $200. Your watering goes down, the electrical goes down on the default values, etc. Am I going to rent or am I going to own? I just, again, sort of allow you to see what your rental, if you're going to be renting long-term, what your pricing would be here, but most people don't use it for that. Am I going to get a home loan? Yes. Okay. Now, when I click on yes, down here, I'm going to put in my down payment, my interest rate, the number of years, and I'll calculate what your mortgage payment is. Now, that mortgage payment plus your taxes, plus your insurance, PMI, and all that, this is your monthly payment right there, right here. Here's your monthly payment. Here's your annual tax bill, but your monthly payment. Your monthly payment is derived from dividing, this bill by 12 and adding in the loan amount and PMI and insurance. Okay, so there's a little bit of additional information here. Again, all of these numbers up here are monthly numbers, except for the annual bond amount here. Now, the other thing that I got was, hey, we want to use it for more of a budgeting tool. So before, I just gave you some miscellaneous little places to put some miscellaneous numbers in. I just broke that out. So I, got a little bit more granular: transportation, personal care, anywhere from medical insurance to, a health club, clothing, nails, things like that. Groceries, food, dining out, entertainment, pets, charity, all of those, just to expand out. The other thing that I added was an income section here where, if you've got a job, so a lot of people in the villages still have jobs. If you have a pension, Social Security 1, 2, if you have annuities, dividend income, investment income, other. So I just allow you to put in your monthly income goals. And then down here, everything should be, here's your summary of cost. That's why it's minus. Here's your summary of cost currently, minus what you're bringing in. So down here, I say you're short. You have a deficit of $3,300 because I didn't show any income, right? So if I went in and said, my pensions total, $2,500, and my Social Security is $2,700. Now I've got excess of $1,800, and I'm in the green here. A couple things to note before I switch over to the presentation side, and we're going to talk about the bond and taxes a little bit more. What is the bond? How do taxes vary throughout the villages? And I'm going to get to that. But just know I tried to be as accurate as possible with this thing. I'm going to unhide something down here. So, so here's a bunch of calculations. These are the millage rates for Sumter, Marion, Lake, Sumter, Wildwood, Lake, Fruitland Park, Leesburg. Here are all the values. So I take those numbers, move them over here, do all the calculations, and then, then pull them back. So just know that, I'm using real tax values. I've got some factors in there to all the patio villa, ranch, courtyard villa, and here are all the different numbers that I use. If you really want to look at what I use, or if you feel free, if you want to change any of these numbers on your own, you can change them back here if you like, but just know you have to unhide. So you're just going to go, I'm just going to hide this again. So if you just right click down here, you can right click and hit unhide. All right. So now let's get to what I just alluded to. What is the bond? The bond, I get more emotional reaction over this bond, meaning I am never paying a bond. I just want a house that does not have a bond paid. If you are looking for a home and that is your number one criteria, you're going to greatly reduce the number of homes that are going to be available to you. Now, if you want to minimize the bond, you can move as far north as you possibly can. So the further north you are, it's either paid off or pretty close to being paid off. The further south you go, the less that's paid off, and typically the more expensive the bonds get. And I'll show you that here in a minute. The bond pays for the original infrastructure in the villages. And it's like, well, every other developer has to put infrastructure in. Well, that is true. Okay, so that is true. But the bond is a tax. You probably have paid bonds in the past. If your town built a new high school or a new school or a new police department or a new fire station, you voted on that. You had a bond referendum, and next thing you know, you've got a little bit of an increase on your tax bill. So same thing in the villages. The bond is a tax that pays for original infrastructure. So the big difference is a normal developer is going to put in water, they're going to put in sewer, they're going to put in electrical, curbs, possibly sidewalks, roads, etc. All right. When it comes to what they contribute to the city, at most they might be putting in a turn lane off the main road, turning into a subdivision. Well, the villages is building a city. Okay, so and they're building. They've got golf cart tunnels, paths, bridges, roads, not just neighborhood roads, but primary and secondary roads and the tertiary roads, which are inside each unit or each village. They have to build water treatment plants, water towers, downtown areas. So this developer's building a city, and that's what the bond is there for. It's for the infrastructure right around where you live. Now, is this extra profit for the developer? It probably is a little bit. I'm not speaking for them. I'm not defending the bond. I'm just telling you what it is. A little bit of a gray area. Where the gray area is, they're building the downtown areas, which happen to be a lot of commercial real estate that the villages own. So I'm not 100% sure if they're using bond money to build their commercial real estate. That's a possibility, but I just don't know. Okay, so but just know the bond is a tax. Now, should you be concerned with the bond? If you are budgeting to the penny and to the dollar, and that bond is going to make a huge difference in your ability to enjoy retirement, then yes, I would take the bond into consideration. But even with the bond and the taxes, again, the bond comes on the tax bill. With the taxes including the bond, a lot of times it's still less expensive than where most people are moving from the north, whether in New York or Chicago area or Ohio or up in New England. They have higher tax rates than we have here. Okay, so again, if that bond's affecting your ability to enjoy retirement, then yeah, consider it and make sure you take that into consideration. But try not to limit yourself to only homes where the bond is paid. Especially if you want something a little bit newer, that's not going to happen. All right, let's talk about relative cost in the villages. And the first thing I did, and this is also in my buying and selling guide, I just wanted to kind of show the relative cost and how things change throughout the villages. If I'm just looking at the price per square foot, if I'm up in Orange Blossom, where the manufactured homes are, they're getting $187 a square foot on average right now, which is kind of ridiculous, but true. Then you come to the Spanish Springs area, about $239, $237, $239. All this up in here is going to be about the same when you're north of 466. Here in the Sumter County area, you're about $261. And you'll notice it gets more expensive as you go south. And then you hop over 44, the Turnpike, now you're $266. Where they're building right now is $246. So you'll see that a brand new house is costing as much as the homes that are about 20 years old. Why is that the case? Well, location. I do have another video, which is why are newer homes less expensive than resales. Really down in this area, a couple things. All the amenities are up in here. And then down in here, you'll have all the amenities as well. You'll have, the golf cart access. You'll have rec centers, pools, pickleball courts, archery. All the amenities are there, none of the conveniences. And what I mean by conveniences, doctors, dentists, stores. There's one grocery store here, and they're building way down here. Okay, so, you're hopping in your car if you want to run an errand. You're in your golf cart if you're doing something fun. If you want to get to a town square currently, you're hopping in your car and going up to Brownwood if you're building in the newer areas. Okay. Now, why is this the most expensive area? Well, that's the most expensive area because the traditional part of the villages is still highly desirable. When people think of the villages, they think of all the golf courses that are up there. They think of kind of the beauty of that area. They think of the town squares and all the country clubs and all the conveniences. But people want newer homes. So the newest homes in the traditional part of the villages are in this area, and that's why that's more expensive. All right, now let's get to the bond. This one was a little bit of an eye opener. So up in here, they never had a bond in Orange Blossom. Here, these homes are getting to the age where most of them are paid off. If there was a bond, not all the homes right here had a bond, but if they're mainly paid off. Then you're going to come up here, and the average bond annually is about, you're probably up here to, balance of like $3,000 or $4,000, if that, maybe even $1,800. But your annual on average in this area is $325. $560 in this area, and you can just see it gets more expensive as you go south. So the bond here is about $1,000 a year, about $1,500 a year, about $1,800. Now, where they're building currently in Newell, which happens to have the highest tax rate and the highest bond, you're at about $3,200 annually for the bond down there where they're building new. Now, that's a function of the fact that there's been some inflation, as well as the interest rate on the bond is a little bit higher. You're probably 5.5% to 6% down there. We're up north, you're anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5%. So just less expensive on the insurance up there. So how does that affect things? Now, when I was flipping through this, I put this presentation together a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at this and I go, what was I thinking when I put this together? So I'm still not sure what I did here, but so I'm assuming a $400,000 home, and this is what your taxes would be. You see, like Spanish Springs in the Sumter County, all of these are going to be about the same. If I'm in the Finney area, I've also got the Wildwood tax. Okay, so you'll see that my ad valorem tax will go higher. If I'm in Lake in Leesburg, where Newell's currently being built, my ad valorem taxes are $4,300 on a $400K home. Now, if I want to add $3,200 to that, and what I didn't add in here is the CDD and the fire on any of these. So these will be a little bit higher, but it's that same $400,000 home is almost twice as much in taxes. Okay, including the bond. So it's a little bit higher to begin with, about $1,000, $1,200 higher just on ad valorem. And then, with that $3,200 bond where they're currently building, the bond is pretty expensive, and your overall tax bill will be almost 2% of what you pay for the home. So that's my cost of living calculator. If you want to get your copy, if I didn't already email it to you, please check your email before you email me. But if you don't have it or you can't find it, email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com, and I'll send you out your copy. And also feel free to contact me if you have any questions at that same email address. I hope to be seeing you around the villages. Take care.